Hi, YouTube land. I'm Grandmaster Ben Feingold. We're analyzing the games from the first half of the candidates. And this is the game that got a lot of flack. Hikaru got a lot of bad press, which he gets a lot of bad press, truth hurts. Trying to steal Hans's thunder. Hikaru was white against Sindarov, and when the game ended in the press conference, Hikaru said that this relatively obvious move that Sindarov played in the early middle game was overlooked by his team of grandmasters, and he didn't know the move. This is where he famously thought for 67 minutes and made a mistake, was worse, ended up losing the game. And so he threw his seconds under the bus, saying it was their fault. The truth hurts. I've known Hikaru for over 20 years. I've never heard of him thinking 67 minutes for a move. Sounds like something I would do. When I played Hikaru, he didn't think at all. I played Hikaru in the US Open in like 2007. Yeah, I played Hikaru in 2007 in the US Open in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And he moved instantly every move, and it was really sharp. Really interesting game. If you ever can find the game on the internet, it's the only game I've played in that was a slow game. Really sharp, complicated. Hikaru was sacking pieces, but he never thought. He just moved instantly. So yeah, him thinking 67 minutes on a move was shocking. Okay, so they played all this theory in a Marshall Gambit. This is the Marshall Gambit you don't know, not the Ruy Lopez one. This gambit's really interesting. In this position, usually white plays bishop e2, but knight e2 is a move also. If white doesn't want to sacrifice a pawn, white can also play knight c3 here. That's been played too. But this is the main line. I've never seen Hikaru play it with either side. But this is his secret illegal prep. Okay, knight a6 is a move. And what white wants to do, white wants to play queen d6 and queen f8 check. And occasionally, white always plays bishop f8. In fact, he may have played it this game. And then if you take the bishop, queen d8 mate. Those are some of the funny tactics in this line. Okay, he played bishop d6, that's the other move. Okay, still theory. Bishop f3. So Hikaru's down 2 pawns, but he has a big lead in development, control of the dark squares, and Sindarov's king is stuck in the middle. But you can see by the time usage, they're both still in their prep. Okay, and the engine says equal. And in this position, the top engine move on the Stockfish 18 Lite that is the default for Classroom, it says castles. And castles is a pretty obvious move. And castles have been played before. And if you go to Lead Chess, there's a lot of games with castles. And somehow, Hikaru's team didn't look at the move castles. And that's like the main move. And the other move the engine says is okay for black is e5, which lets the bishop out. Okay, in this position, white has one good move, otherwise white's worse. And this move has been played many times. And there's one slow game where the players were like 2100 and white played the right move. Hikaru thought 67 minutes and made a mistake. The two obvious moves are h4, putting in an h, and knight e4, attacking the queen and putting the knight in the center. The engine says knight e4 is equal. And this is the move that Sindarov had mainly prepared for. Then black plays queen a5 check, and the game goes on. But he played h4, and now the engine says black is much better. The engine hates the move h4. Queen a5 check. Knight takes b4. Now black has 3 pawns up, and Hikaru has 3 isolated pawns. Castles, rook e8. Now the engine doesn't say black's winning, it just says black has a big advantage. Queen d2, c5. It says these moves are all good. Rook a d1, knight f5. Black's moves are all perfect. Takes, takes. Queen f4. White has compensation for his 3 pawns. He's got the 2 bishops. Black has doubled pawns. Black's king doesn't have any pieces in front of it. Okay, the engine doesn't like king h1. It says that gives black a bigger advantage. Doesn't like rook g1 either. In this position, the engine sacrifices the exchange, although it says black's winning. And basically, Hikaru doesn't have enough compensation for 3 pawns. And Sindarov defended well. Fork. And they traded pieces, and black is up 1,000 pawns. It's opposite bishops, but too many pawns down. And the game didn't last very long. Black's up 3 pawns. Black gets a pass pawn on the king's side, pass pawn on the queen's side, pass pawn on the king's side. Too many pawns. And now Hikaru resigned because if black does this, Hikaru has to do that also. But Hikaru can't do that if his king's on h4. He can't get there in time. And even if he could, black has a passed h pawn. So if white could cheat and take this pawn and stop black from queening by getting his king over here, then I would push my h pawn. So it doesn't matter. So the engine says +8 for black. Hikaru's down 4 pawns, so he resigned. And then in the press conference, he said, we didn't have to move castles in our notes, so it's my team's fault because the position's too hard to play afterwards. Truth hurts. Yeah, when you play a ton of theory with a ton of prep and you haven't prepped against the best move and your opponent has prepped the best move, that's not good for your prep. That's one of the downfalls of doing a lot of prep. Sometimes you miss something and sometimes you forget your prep. And then you play the wrong move. When you think 67 minutes on a move, it's almost always going to be bad. It means you're confused. It's just chess. The engine says it's equal. There's more than one way to play. It's a very complex position. You have to analyze those positions and see what the typical counterplay is, not just individual moves. Sindarov was just better prepared than Hikaru.